Hello everyone, this is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back, Colleen Clan. Or if you are new, then come join the family. This is kind of a self-indulgent video where I just get to tell stories, but I do have another reason for wanting to talk about my cosplay contest journey. When I started doing cosplay contests, I had this very linear idea of how things work. You start as a novice, right? That makes sense. Then you do Journeyman and then Masters, and then you can be a cosplay contest judge, and then from there you could probably even be a pro cosplayer if you want to. But the reality of it is it's not really like that. Not always. You know, I have gone to cosplay contests and I've been judged by people who have never done a cosplay contest before in their life. And cosplay contest rules are different at every con, so maybe I'll be Masters at one con, but Journeyman at the next. It isn't just this climb up the ladder, you've done it thing. It's a bit more complicated than that. So I wanted to give a very realistic view of just how I started as a novice and got to where I am now. My first cosplay contest was RadCon 2018, and I competed Riku from Final Fantasy X. This actually was the first costume I ever made. Now, when I'm giving advice for people who want to get into craftsmanship, I'm like, look, you should thrift stuff, you should buy some stuff and alter it, you should keep it really simple, right? I think that's good advice. I still stand by that. But I decided my first cosplay would be from Final Fantasy X. Their costumes are not thriftable. These costumes don't look like regular clothes, but I still took that advice of like, I'm gonna thrift. And I came up with this. This is what it looked like. So really this was fine. I mean, yes, I look on it now and I cringe because I have progressed since then, but this is not a bad place to start. So I didn't win anything, but I was hooked on cosplay contests after that. I wanted to do cosplay contests. I just love the community and the atmosphere. I love being backstage, talking to other cosplayers, how they made their costume, getting to know people. It's just, I love the sense of community. And I remember as soon as I got home from that con, I started working on Riku version 2. So the next con I went to was Lilac City Comic Con 2018, and I competed Riku again. My new and improved version of Riku. And we won Novice at Lilac City 2018, but that was my first award. And I loved every minute of competing, whether I won or not. But at that point, I really did think it was cool to win. That's fine, you can want to win. So the next con I competed at was Boise Wizard World with my Batgirl cosplay. I actually don't even know how their cosplay contest was run because you never spoke to the judges and they never saw your costume up close. I don't think they even had categories. I think they just put everyone on stage. At the very next contest, I competed in the expert category. So I've talked about, you know, this linear idea of like, okay, novice, okay, I won at novice, maybe now I'm upgrading to journeyman, right? No. At this next con, I was expert. I jumped all the way to essentially masters. And that's because my next con was KuranakoCon 2018, and I competed my Tamari cosplay. At this con, the way that they decided the categories wasn't based on awards or experience or how many contests you've been in. It was based on how much of the cosplay you made. And I made every single piece of my Tamari except for the shoes. I made the giant fan, I styled the wig, so I was an expert at that con. Again, didn't win anything because I was competing in Masters for like my 4th ever contest. But again, loved the atmosphere. Some of the people I consider my closest friends today were also in that contest. Back to the timeline, we're in 2018. I started my YouTube channel. I started calling cosplay in summer of 2018. I had a whole 5 cosplays to my name, and yet I started a cosplay YouTube channel. Like, you know, some days I wish I could get that confidence back. Give me the confidence of the cosplayer who will start a cosplay YouTube channel after only making like 5 costumes. Okay, I want that confidence. I was sewing 20 hours a week. I was like really deep into this stuff, guys. I was obsessed with cosplay, okay? 2019 was the year I think I was the most competitive. It was the year I was going for the prize. I had the intention of entering cosplay contests with the idea that I would be considered for an award. I mean, everyone who enters is considered for an award. After a while, you understand what cosplay you need to bring in order to kind of like match the competition, right? I made my Felicia cosplay from Fire Emblem, and this was a pretty complex costume. Even now, I think it's one of my more complex ones. And we competed at RadCon again. I competed with my sister and my brother in a Fire Emblem group. And we competed in Journeyman. So now we're kind of back onto that track that I had envisioned where like, okay, I did Novice, I won Novice, now I'm in Journeyman. We compete at RadCon and we win. We win our Journeyman award, right? So it has been a single year, and you know, I went from winning Novice to winning Journeyman, and in my mind, I'm like, wow, I'm basically a master. Guys, I wasn't even pressing my seams. I was not a master. I also started getting a little bit of an ego because of this. Okay, little bit of an ego. Then the next con I did was WenCon, and I competed in my Supergirl. The other thing I want to talk about is my disability. So I have a story about my disability. You are going to notice me getting progressively more disabled through these next few clips. That story is kind of in line with this one. So I was also getting progressively more disabled from a cartilage disorder. And I feel like WenCon was the first time I realized that that could be a problem. It could be a problem that I was disabled and wanted to be a competitive cosplayer. Because the thing is, I competed in my Supergirl, and no, let me just play the clip.
And no, I didn't do that to her knee.
I made this costume from scratch. I was really excited about cosplay contests, and I competed my Supergirl, and the MC felt it was necessary to point out my disability as I came on stage. This is something that has not happened since then, but was really soul-crushing when it did happen at this con. So I competed at WenCon. I think I was in Masters because in my mind I had won Journeyman at RadCon, didn't win anything. I was introduced to the concept of ableism. It is what it is. And then the next con I went to was Con 2019. So I'm kind of competing the same circuit of cons that I competed last year. These are all much smaller cons, maybe only like 1,000 to 5,000 attendees. I haven't ever gone to a big con like SakuraCon and been properly humbled at this point, okay? And I get my first 100 subscribers on YouTube. That is also part of the ego building. We go to Con and I compete in the original design category, and I compete this look. It's based off of Hannah Alexander's artwork for her centaur. Let's talk original design category. Because I think this category is the furthest from the linear model of novice to masters. So original design, if you don't know what that is, it's when you make a cosplay that's not canon to the media. And the thing with original design is it is no man's land. There are no laws in original design. In this category, everyone's just kind of lumped together. It doesn't matter if you are novice or journeyman or masters. If you're an original design, that is your category. And you are judged on both the like originalness of the design, but also your craftsmanship. It's just a weird place to be. And I do not compete in that category anymore just because, well, we'll get to it. I compete the centauress design, I don't win, okay? This was a pretty intense build that I did, and I think this was probably the first con I went into it thinking I had a win secured. Again, the ego. I will be humbled, don't you worry, but I kind of went into it thinking I had a shot at winning, like thinking I would win, and I didn't. So I think that was the first time I was like, oh, You can work really, really hard on a costume, and that doesn't necessarily mean you'll win. The thing with cosplay contest is it isn't just what you bring, it's what everyone else brings. And original design, it can be anything. You know, I could have been going up against a master, so I didn't win. So now we are entering 2020. I was one of those people, those fools perhaps, who at the new year for 2020, I said, this is gonna be my year. This is going to be my year. And what can I say? It wasn't. So I went into 2020 incredibly hopeful. I had also gained the large following of 300 subscribers, and let me tell you, I thought that was pretty good. If I could get back the confidence of 300 subscriber Colleen, things would be different. I decided I would compete in original design again, and I competed my Bob Ross Elsa. So this is an Elsa dress with Bob Ross paintings on the skirt. I made a ball gown because sometimes there's this cosplay contest culture where ball gowns are like the gold standard, and once you've made a ball gown, you've done it, because ball gowns. This cosplay was hot mess, start to finish. I used the wrong paint. It was really horribly made. I decided I would compete it at RadCon for 2020. So again, coming back to this super small con that I had won at the year previously. And the other thing that's really important here is I also got my very first press pass. So a press pass is when a convention gives you a free ticket in exchange for you doing press for them. In my case, YouTube. So me, with my amassed following of 300 subscribers, had received a press pass. And that meant that, well, I was hot stuff. So I entered this contest in the original design category, and I won. I think this actually may have turned me off from original design way more than losing in original design at CoronecoCon. At CoronecoCon, I lost. Someone else brought something better. And I think that was easier for me to cope with than coming into original design and going up against a bunch of novices and crushing them. That didn't feel good. I don't particularly remember who I was up against at RadCon, but I do remember feeling that it was kind of unfair. This was February of 2020. I'm sure you all know what happens next. There was a pandemic. This pandemic was exactly what I needed to be appropriately humbled and to work on myself. Before the pandemic happened, I actually did have a con reach out and ask me if I would guest for them. So even 300 subscriber Colleen was in a place where she got an offer to guest. That offer never went through because of the pandemic. I just want to mention that there too. 2020, well, I thought it was going to be my year. It actually was my anime protagonist training arc. I sewed a lot over the pandemic. I kept making costumes, and I focused a lot more on YouTube. There weren't a lot of competitions except online ones, and do online conventions count? Do you count your awards from online contests as awards? Do you count that as like cosplay contests you've competed in? Are we all counting the online era of cosplay contests, or are we all collectively forgetting that happened? I did a number of cosplay contests over the pandemic, and they were all virtual contests. For the most part, I was making YouTube videos. And 2020 is also where you see the very start of a shift for me from making really complex costumes in attempts to win awards at cosplay contests to just being a YouTuber. And I also did TikTok, okay? I'm not proud of it, but I did TikTok. This is where we see the humbling that I had coming for me. I was not doing well on YouTube, okay? I had never been doing well on YouTube. I'd never gotten a lot of subscribers or views. I'd never really been a successful YouTuber. And by 2020, my ego had grown so much that I thought I was going to get into the YouTube Partner Program that year. For real. I thought I would reach YouTube Partner Program that year. I didn't. And on top of there not being conventions, cosplay YouTube also kind of suffered during the pandemic. Even tutorial videos that had, regularly brought in views were not performing as well. People just didn't want to know how to make costumes during that time. A lot of people quit the hobby entirely, or they took a break from creating costumes, took a break from competitions. So then we enter 2021, which I would call the death of my will to win awards. I had a huge amount of success on TikTok, so much success that I was drowned with ableist hate comments, and I quit TikTok entirely. I have a video on that too if you want more detail on like the sort of comments I was receiving. It is a bit of a heavier video, but if you're curious, I quit TikTok. I finally reached 1,000 subscribers over 2021, and I just kept doing my thing, okay? Except there is one really notable online contest that I did during that time, and that is the Her Universe fashion show. The Her Universe fashion show is a geek couture fashion show that takes place at San Diego Comic-Con every year. And in 2021, they were running a virtual show. Completely virtual. You would still make the outfits and it would just be on video. Which was great because as someone who was using a wheelchair at the time and realizing how inaccessible the world was, the idea of getting all the way down to San Diego to compete in an event this big just seemed very difficult. By some miracle, I get in. There was over 200 people that applied, 25 people got to be finalists, and I got to be one of them. So I made my Her Universe Carmen Sandiego design. I had 6 weeks from start to finish. This is the most stressed I've ever been sewing a costume, and I also would mark this costume as the very last time I did a cosplay contest and really took it seriously. Like, I really put everything I had into this craftsmanship. I worked really hard to get the patterning right. I'm not really sure I had a shot at winning, but it wasn't like I didn't either. I felt like I came in about average. And from there on out, everything was really more social media focused and YouTube focused. I also finally went back to a convention. My first convention back was Lilac City Comic Con 2021, and I competed my Supergirl. Also in 2021, I went to my very first sizable convention. I'd gone to Rose City prior to the competition stuff, but this was the first time I'd gone to a sizable convention since I started my YouTube channel and started competing. I went to KomoriCon, and I competed in the lip sync. So not the cosplay contest, not contest related, but I did the lip sync. And at this point, I was doing adaptive dance with my wheelchair. It was a pretty big success. I was actually surprised at the response I got to it. I had not seen anyone compete in a cosplay lip sync from a wheelchair before, and I was still pretty new to using my wheelchair. This was really outside my comfort zone. It was, and I had a great reception to it. I was really worried that people would treat me differently, because I danced differently, but everyone was nice. We are entering 2022. Colleen does the influencer thing. So entering 2022, I got a huge amount of followers on Instagram. The thing that kind of kicked it off was I had wanted to compete at Fan Expo Portland, and they refused to get a wheelchair ramp in place. The venue confirmed they had wheelchair ramps, but Fan Expo Portland as a convention refused to bring a wheelchair ramp in, and instead suggested that I compete on the floor while all the other contestants compete on the stage. And this was not my first experience of just blatant ableism in the form of not getting a wheelchair ramp, but it was the one that got a lot of traction. And I just want to add, to this day, Fan Expo Portland still doesn't have a wheelchair ramp. This isn't like oh, whoopsie, they forgot, give them a little bit of slack. I'm just saying it's been nearly 2 years later and they still don't have a ramp. But that kind of kicked off this discussion of, disabled cosplayers compete in cosplay contests, right? Why don't we have wheelchair ramps? And I think for a lot of people, it was just something they'd never thought of. It's something I hadn't thought of before I was disabled either. So I went to SakuraCon 2022. I got in a car crash, unfortunately, on the way up. didn't wear any of my costumes. I was recovering from the crash for about a month afterwards because I had whiplash. And my very next convention I did was WasabiCon PDX 2022. And I did the lip sync and the cosplay contest. Lots of stage events. So around 2022, I started making some regular, very minimal amount of money from doing social media cosplay stuff. I have a video where I break down all the money I made in 2022 that I did for taxes. You can watch that video if you want to know how or where it came from. But the most significant source of income was the Reels bonus program that was happening in the US at the time. So yes, I was doing cosplay contests because I had fun, but also I was getting paid for the video of me being on stage, okay? And I was not getting paid a lot, but I was still getting paid more than the winning prize for most of these cosplay contests. So I realized that I could go to a convention, compete in the cosplay contest, leave a review for how the cosplay contest was run on my YouTube channel. Then I could take the video of me competing and post it as a reel or a short or a little TikTok, whatever. And that could generate a very minimal amount of income. So now I could enter cosplay contests without trying to win, and I could be guaranteed to get some money from it. I would be guaranteed to have a good time with my friends, and that actually seemed like a pretty darn good deal to me. 2023 era is when I started doing judging and guesting. It was probably a good thing that I couldn't guest at that con in 2020, because I just don't think I was mature enough at that time. And I feel like now, like in 2023, now I really am at Masters category for pretty much every convention. If not based on awards or experience, then based on the work I do on YouTube. My very first time guesting and judging a cosplay contest was at Mid-Valley Comic Art Expo in June of this year. And to this day, I'm still really grateful they were willing to take me on, because I didn't have the experience. And that's something I've learned now that I have been appropriately humbled, is if you haven't judged before, you don't have experience judging. And judging is different than competing, quite a bit different. When you're competing, you are paying a fee to the con, you're buying a ticket so you can compete in this contest and be judged and be eligible for the prizes. When you're a judge, you are working for the con. They are hiring you to work for them to perform a service. And that looks different at every con, but it usually is multiple hours of work. Judging is not for everyone, okay? It's not for everyone to not be able to compete just so you can judge everyone else. Judging is also difficult. You have to spend like a whole hour plus trying to give every single costume the correct amount of attention. The thing about judging is the contestants are taking it seriously, so you have to also. You need to ask the right questions. You need to actually look at the costume and see, like, what did they make? What did they do? And I felt like judging was it for me. Like, this was amazing. It was the perfect thing where I could still do craftsmanship stuff. I could still be part of the craftsmanship discussion. I could still have that sense of community that I fell in love with at my very first contest. And I also got to just be a con mom. I got to tell every single contestant what I liked about their costume, because there is always something you can like about a costume. I don't care what the costume looks like. I don't care if it was pieced together out of trash bags. There's something good you can say about every costume, and I got to do that as a judge. So a month later, I was a judge at Con, the con I had competed at twice before. And I'm also actually really grateful to Con, because they had me confirmed as a guest, like written down in the books, before I ever judged at Mid-Valley. So they didn't know if I was going to be good at judging. I didn't know if I was going to be good at judging. I didn't have any experience in judging, and they still brought me on, and I'm really grateful for that too. And judging, I feel like, is the element that fits the least into this linear structure of, you know, novice, journeyman, masters. Because you can judge without ever competing. You can judge with years of competing. And part of that equation is also the stuff I do on YouTube. I have a pretty extensive tutorial playlist. I teach a lot of craftsmanship on here. I also had another big boom of growth on Instagram. So sometimes followers also plays into that equation. Are you going to be able to bring more people in to buy tickets? Looking into 2024, I'd love to do more judging and guesting just because like that's the most fulfilling for me. I could reach out to 20 cons next year and ask to judge, and all of them could say I'm not what they're looking for. Because different cons are going to look for different things, and I might just not fit what they want, okay? Or maybe they don't have a wheelchair ramp, and I can't be a judge. But I'd love to if I could, so I'm kind of keeping the schedule open. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!